I always believed that hard work and loyalty would be rewarded, especially in a family business. For years, I poured my heart, soul, and every waking moment into rescuing my father's failing furniture company from the brink of bankruptcy. Meanwhile, my brother was busy blowing inheritance money on parties and luxury cars. I transformed the business from drowning in debt to making millions in annual profit. Then came the ultimate betrayal last month. My own brother, who contributed nothing to our success, somehow managed to fire me from the company I rebuilt. Before I dive into this unbelievable story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. If you have ever had someone take credit for your hard work, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss out on stories like mine. Growing up, I idolized my father. He built Millwood furniture with nothing but $20 a second-hand saw and an unwavering vision for crafting beautiful handmade furniture that would last generations. By the time I was 7, I was already spending weekends in his workshop, breathing in the sweet scent of cedar and maple, watching in awe as rough planks transformed into elegant dining tables and cabinets under his skilled hands. Dante craftsmanship is about patience and respect for the materials, he would tell me as I swept sawdust from the floor. Wood has its own story. Our job is to listen and bring out its beauty. His wisdom extended beyond woodworking. He taught me about business integrity, treating employees like family, and the satisfaction of creating something of lasting value. By my teenage years, I was helping with small projects, learning the business from the ground up, and dreaming of someday taking the reins of Millwood Furniture. My brother Jackson was different. 3 years older than me, he viewed the family business as boring and beneath him. While I spent summers learning the trade, Jackson was busy building his reputation as the life of every party. He was handsome, charming when he wanted to be, and completely disinterested in anything requiring sustained effort. "Why waste your time with splinters and sawdust?" he would mock whenever he caught me studying furniture design magazines. "Dad is stuck in the past. Nobody wants handcrafted furniture anymore when they can buy cheap stuff online." Our father never pushed Jackson to join the business, always saying, "Different people have different paths." But I could see the disappointment in his eyes whenever Jackson dismissed the legacy that had been built over 35 years. After college, where I earned my business degree with honors, I landed a promising position as a marketing director at Westfield Industries. The corporate world offered challenges and rewards, but I always kept tabs on Millwood. Dad was getting older, and I noticed subtle changes in the company's trajectory. Their website looked increasingly outdated. Newer competitors were gaining market share. Still, Dad insisted everything was fine whenever I asked. Then came the phone call that changed everything. "Your father has had a stroke," my Aunt Susan sobbed into the phone one Tuesday morning. "It is bad, Dante. Really bad." I took the first flight home and spent the next 72 hours in the hospital waiting room, watching doctors come and go with guarded expressions. Jackson showed up briefly, reeking of alcohol, asked if Dad was going to make it, then left when a nurse said visiting hours were over. He did not return for 3 days. When Dad finally stabilized, the prognosis was devastating. Partial paralysis on his right side, speech difficulties, months of rehabilitation ahead, and the business he had built from nothing was now essentially leaderless. "Someone needs to keep the lights on until Dad recovers," I told Jackson as we stood in the hospital parking lot. "Hire a manager." He shrugged, checking his phone. "I am heading to Cabo next week. Already paid for the trip." "We cannot afford a manager," I said. "I looked at the books this morning. Dad has been hiding how bad things are." Jackson finally looked up from his phone. How bad 3 months from bankruptcy? Losing $50,000 monthly. Tax issues. Late supplier payments. The works. For a brief moment, I thought I saw genuine concern in his eyes. Then he laughed. "Well, that sucks. Guess Dad should have modernized, like I always said. That business is already dead, bro. No point throwing good money after bad." That night, I sat alone in Dad's office, surrounded by purchase orders, past due notices, and employee files. 15 people depended on Millwood for their livelihoods. Some had worked alongside my father for decades. The company was not just a business. It was a family legacy. Our family legacy. I called my boss at Westfield the next morning and resigned. I would be taking a 70% pay cut to save a failing furniture company in an industry I had not worked in professionally. Friends called me crazy. Jackson openly mocked my decision. But sitting beside my father's hospital bed, watching him struggle to form words, I knew it was the right choice. "I will fix it, Dad," I promised, holding his good hand. "Rest and focus on getting better. Millwood will be waiting for you." The first week was a crash course in crisis management. I discovered unpaid bills hidden in desk drawers, client orders that had been delayed for months, equipment breaking down regularly. The company website had not been updated in 7 years. We were using accounting software from the 90s. I slept on a cot in Dad's office most nights, learning every aspect of the operation, from the supply chain to production schedules to employee concerns. The staff was initially skeptical about the boss's younger son suddenly taking charge, but their loyalty to my father gave me a chance to prove myself. "Your dad gave me a job when nobody else would," explained Marcus, our head craftsman who had been with the company for 28 years. "We will stand by Millwood as long as there is hope." I gathered the entire team and laid out the harsh reality of our situation. Then I asked for their help and patience as we fought to save the company. Not a single person walked out despite the grim forecast. That moment of solidarity became my North Star during the difficult months ahead. The transformation began with modernization. I leveraged my marketing background to create an online catalog showcasing our furniture. High-quality photography highlighted the craftsmanship that mass-produced competitors could not match. I implemented a digital inventory system that reduced waste and streamlined production. Every dollar counted. I negotiated with suppliers for better terms, refinanced high-interest loans, personally called delinquent accounts to arrange payment plans. For the first 12 months, I took only enough salary to cover my apartment rent and basic expenses, pouring everything else back into the business. Jackson appeared sporadically, usually when he needed money. "You know, I technically own half this place," he reminded me during one visit, lounging in Dad's chair with his feet on the desk. "I should be getting dividends or something." "Dividends come from profits," I explained, pushing his feet off a stack of invoices. "We have not turned a profit in 3 years. Whatever. Dad always helped me out when I needed it. Dad is not running things anymore. I am. And I am trying to save this company, not fund your lifestyle." His eyes narrowed. "Just remember whose name is on the incorporation papers alongside Dad's. I have been very patient letting you play CEO." These confrontations became more frequent as Dad's recovery progressed. Though he regained some speech and mobility, doctors confirmed he would never return to full-time work. Jackson seemed to interpret this as his chance to extract value without contribution. The breaking point came 14 months into my tenure. After countless late nights, strategic pivots, and personal sacrifices, Millwood Furniture recorded its first profitable month under my leadership. It was modest, just $8,000 in the black, but it represented a turning point. I brought the balance sheet to show Dad during my daily hospital visit. "Proud," he said, the words still difficult for him, but his eyes shining with tears. "Always knew you could." That same evening, I received a call from Thomas Blackwell, owner of Artemis Hotels, who had seen our new catalog. "I need furnishings for 4 boutique hotels we are opening next year," he explained. "Your sustainable sourcing practices caught my attention. Can you handle an order of that size?" The contract would be worth millions, but would require expanding our production capacity. I stayed up all night, creating a detailed proposal, including a scaled implementation plan. When I presented it to Blackwell the following week, he was impressed enough to sign immediately and provide a substantial deposit to fund the expansion. That night, I finally allowed myself to celebrate with a glass of whiskey on the workshop floor after everyone had gone home. The phone rang, interrupting my moment of quiet satisfaction. "Is this Dante Williams of Millwood Furniture?" asked a woman with a British accent. "Speaking. I am calling from Business Innovation Monthly. We are doing a feature on family business turnarounds, and your company has come to our attention. Would you be willing to be interviewed?" The resulting article, Phoenix Rising: How Dante Williams Saved His Father's Legacy, brought Millwood national attention. Orders increased exponentially. Our staff grew from 15 to 50 within 18 months. Annual revenue jumped from $600,000 to $4.5 million. Throughout this period of explosive growth, Jackson remained conspicuously absent except for an industry event where he appeared uninvited, introduced himself as the co-owner, and proceeded to get embarrassingly intoxicated in front of key stakeholders. "Your brother is quite the character," commented one of our new retail partners after Jackson had loudly interrupted my presentation about our expansion plans. "We all have our crosses to bear," I replied with a forced smile, while steering Jackson toward a coffee station. "You think you are so special," he slurred, jerking his arm away. "Dad always liked you better. Now everyone acts like you are some kind of savior. Jackson, you are drunk. Go home before you damage relationships we need." "These are boring business drones," he laughed too loudly. "Nobody cares what they think. I care. This company cares. If you care about Dad at all, you will leave now." He glared but complied, though not before spreading rumors to several attendees questioning my leadership capabilities. I spent the remainder of the event doing damage control. Dad continued to hold out hope that Jackson would eventually mature and take an interest in the business. During his therapy sessions, which I drove him to 3 times weekly, he would often mention his dream of seeing both his sons working together at Millwood. Family. Together, he would insist, his speech still labored. Promise. How could I refuse him? After all, he had built after his suffering. I could only nod and say, "We will try, Dad." In private moments, though, I worried about what that would mean for the company we had fought so hard to revitalize. The business was finally thriving after years on life support. Could it survive if Jackson brought his chaos into the mix? I pushed these concerns aside, focusing instead on our continued expansion. We moved to a larger facility, developed a line of eco-friendly furniture that garnered attention from sustainability advocates. Millwood was featured in architectural magazines and specified by top designers for high-profile projects. After 3 years of rebuilding, I finally allowed myself to draw a reasonable salary. We had grown to 80 employees. Our products were backordered despite increased production capacity. Dad had progressed enough to visit the new workshop occasionally, his face beaming with pride as he watched the business he started now operating at a scale he had never imagined. "You did this," he told me during one visit, the words coming easier after years of speech therapy. "My son. My legacy." I did not realize those would be among his last words to me. The call came at 3 in the morning. Dad had suffered another stroke, massive this time. By the time I reached the hospital, he was gone. I sat alone in the sterile hospital room, holding his hand long after it had grown cold. Where was Jackson? I had called him, immediately left 3 voicemails. He finally appeared as dawn broke eyes, bloodshot clothes rumpled. "Is he really gone?" he asked, his voice small for the first time in years. I just nodded, too exhausted for anger. The funeral drew hundreds from the furniture industry and local community. I delivered the eulogy, somehow maintaining composure while recounting our father's remarkable journey from penniless immigrant to respected craftsman and businessman. Jackson stood beside me, occasionally dabbing at dry eyes when cameras pointed his way. His grief performance seemed as hollow as everything else about him. 3 days later, we met with Dad's attorney for the reading of the will. I expected the distribution to reflect our vastly different contributions to the family business. Dad was nothing if not fair. He must have amended his will after seeing how I had revitalized Millwood while Jackson remained uninvolved. "The ownership of Millwood Furniture Company shall be divided equally between my sons Dante Williams and Jackson Williams," the attorney read. Equal. 50-50. Despite everything. Additionally, it is my express wish that my sons operate the business together as equal partners, honoring the legacy we have built as a family. Jackson smirked beside me. The attorney gave me a sympathetic look. "Mr. Williams, your father amended this will 6 months ago. If I may speak candidly, I advised him against equal distribution given the circumstances. But he was adamant about treating both sons identically. I nodded numb. My father's final wish was for brotherly reconciliation, but he had inadvertently handed Jackson tremendous power he had done nothing to earn. We can discuss alternate arrangements, the attorney suggested quietly when Jackson stepped out to take a phone call. Given your contributions, there are ways to structure the company that would protect your position. No, I said firmly. I will honor Dad's wishes. Maybe this responsibility is exactly what Jackson needs to finally grow up. I could not have been more wrong. For the first few weeks after the funeral, Jackson maintained a respectful distance, allowing me to continue running operations without interference. Then he began showing up at the office, regularly sitting in on management meetings, asking surprisingly insightful questions about financial projections. I cautiously allowed myself to hope that perhaps grief had triggered genuine change. I have been thinking about what Dad wanted, he said during a lunch meeting. Us working together. Building on what you have accomplished. What did you have in mind? I asked, not hiding my skepticism. Let me handle investor relations and business development. You are brilliant with operations and product development. We could complement each other. The proposal made business sense. Jackson had always possessed natural charm that I lacked. If he was serious about contributing, his networking skills could open doors I had struggled to access. 1-month trial period, I conceded. We will reevaluate after that. Jackson threw himself into his new role with unexpected enthusiasm. He arranged meetings with potential investors interested in funding further expansion, hosted client dinners where his natural charisma shone. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe that my brother might actually become the partner Dad had envisioned. Then came my scheduled trip to Europe to meet with sustainable lumber suppliers, a 2-week absence I had planned months before Dad's passing. Jackson volunteered to handle things while I was away. Go build those relationships, he insisted. I have everything under control here. I should have recognized the gleam in his eyes, so similar to his expression before childhood pranks, that inevitably left me taking the blame. Upon my return, I noticed subtle changes. Staff seemed oddly guarded around me. Jackson had moved into the largest office, formerly Dad's, which I had preserved out of respect. New faces appeared in management meetings. Decisions had been made without my input. Just streamlining things while you were focused on sourcing, Jackson explained dismissively when I questioned him. The board approved everything. The board? What board? The advisory board I established. Major shareholders and industry experts to help guide our growth strategy. Standard practice for companies our size. I had been gone 15 days, and somehow my brother had created a power structure above me without my knowledge. Still, I tried to maintain our fragile truce, focusing on the massive orders that needed fulfilling, and the 300 employees now depending on Millwood for their livelihoods. Then came the board meeting I will never forget. I arrived prepared to discuss third-quarter projections, only to find Jackson already seated at the head of the conference table, surrounded by faces I barely recognized. Our company attorney looked uncomfortable. Marcus, our longest-serving employee, sat in the corner with a pained expression. Dante, glad you could join us, Jackson said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. We were just discussing leadership structure. What leadership structure? We are co-owners as per Dad's will. About that. Jackson slid a document across the table. The board feels that having co-CEOs creates operational inefficiencies. We have voted to establish a sole chief executive position with the other brother serving as chairman. I scanned the document, my blood running cold. This gives the CEO complete operational control. The chairman would be essentially powerless. A necessary clarification of roles, one of the new board members interjected. Nothing personal. And who exactly would assume each role, I asked already, knowing the answer. Jackson spread his hands in a gesture of false regret. The board believes I have the vision to take Millwood to the next level as CEO. You would remain chairman, of course, focusing on the craftsmanship aspects Dad valued so much. This is absurd. I rebuilt this company from nothing while you were busy partying around the world. These people do not even know our history. The past is less relevant than the future, brother. I moved to formally implement the new structure effective immediately. Hands raised around the table. I watched in disbelief as years of sacrifice were erased in a moment of parliamentary procedure. Additionally, Jackson continued, not meeting my eyes, the board has concerns about certain financial decisions made under previous leadership. Until those are resolved, we believe it prudent to suspend the chairman's access to company accounts and facilities. You are firing me from our father's company. Temporarily reassigning responsibilities corrected a thin man in an expensive suit. Nothing personal. Security was waiting outside the boardroom. I was escorted from the building. I had modernized past employees I had hired, carrying only a small box of personal items. Jackson watched from the boardroom window, finally allowing his triumphant smirk to show once he thought I could no longer see him. In the parking lot, Marcus caught up with me. "This is wrong," he said, his voice breaking. "After everything you did, 10 of us are ready to walk out right now." "Do not do that," I told him. "Those families need those jobs. This is between Jackson and me. What will you do?" I looked back at the Millwood sign I had redesigned 3 years earlier. "I am not sure yet, but this is not over." The next week passed in a blur of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. Jackson had not only pushed me out, but had frozen my access to company funds, despite my 50% ownership. His timing was calculated, positioning himself to reap the rewards of systems and relationships I had built over years of grinding work. I consulted with a business attorney who specialized in family company disputes. She reviewed the documentation and frowned. "During your European trip, your brother amended the company bylaws. The board he created has extraordinary powers, including the ability to restrict shareholder activities deemed potentially harmful to the company. How is this legal? I never approved these changes. According to these minutes, you provided written proxy approval." She showed me a document bearing what appeared to be my signature. "That is forged. I never saw this document." Then we have grounds to fight, but litigation between 50-50 owners typically destroys the company in question. Is that what you want? I thought of the 300 families now dependent on Millwood, the craftsmen who had stood by me during the darkest days. My father's legacy. There must be another way. That evening, my doorbell rang. Standing on my porch were 7 Millwood department heads, including Marcus. "We are not here," officially explained Lisa, our production manager. "But things are already falling apart. Jackson has no idea how to run the operation. He is making promises to clients we cannot keep. He fired the sustainability team yesterday," added Robert from accounting. "Says it is cheaper to source lumber through standard channels. Our eco-conscious clients are livid." One by one, they detailed the chaos erupting in my absence. Jackson was systematically dismantling the very elements that had made our revival successful, focused only on short-term profit extraction. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, though I already knew. "We need a plan," Marcus said simply. "For the company. For your father's legacy." Over the next 3 days, we pieced together Jackson's scheme. He had been planning this coup for months, since Dad's funeral. The board members were primarily friends he had met during his partying days, who had made minor investments in exchange for their votes. He had already taken out loans against company assets to fund an extravagant new headquarters we did not need. Most critically, I discovered through loyal staff that Jackson had been withdrawing large sums for personal use before removing my access, technically embezzlement given our corporate structure. Document everything my attorney advised, and reach out to key clients personally. Their leverage may exceed what legal channels can accomplish in the short term. I contacted Thomas Blackwell of Artemis Hotels, first explaining the situation candidly. "This explains the disturbing call I received yesterday," he replied. "Your brother informed me that our sustainability requirements were being reconsidered due to cost. I was about to cancel our entire order. Please hold off. This situation is temporary. Dante, I did not enter into a contract with Millwood Furniture. I entered into a contract with you. Your vision, your integrity. Fix this and our business continues. Otherwise, I have no choice but to look elsewhere." Similar conversations with other major clients confirmed my fears. Jackson's actions were not just betraying me, but endangering the entire company. A consortium of our 5 largest clients agreed to send a joint letter expressing their concerns about leadership changes and sustainability commitment. Simultaneously, I worked with my attorney to prepare documentation of the financial irregularities we had discovered. The signature forgery alone constituted fraud, but Jackson's unauthorized personal withdrawals created leverage I needed. 3 weeks after my humiliating removal, I requested a meeting with the board, not as an employee, but as a 50% shareholder raising grave concerns. Jackson tried to block it, but corporate law was on my side. They had to hear me out. I arrived at the meeting with 2 things: a detailed dossier of Jackson's financial misdeeds and letters from clients representing 60% of our annual revenue, expressing their intention to terminate contracts if the leadership situation remained unchanged. Gentlemen, I began placing both documents on the table. You have a choice to make today. This folder contains evidence of multiple felony violations committed by the current CEO. This other folder contains letters from clients representing over $27 million in annual revenue, all preparing to walk away. The room fell silent. Jackson started to speak, but I continued calmly. I have no desire to see my brother face criminal charges. I have no wish to see this company, which employs 300 people, collapse due to client exodus. But make no mistake, I will pursue both outcomes aggressively if necessary. You are bluffing, Jackson sputtered. This is a desperate attempt to undermine my leadership. I slid the financial documents toward the corporate attorney. See for yourself. Bank records do not lie. Mine lie. As the attorney paged through the evidence, his expression grew increasingly grave. The board members exchanged nervous glances. What exactly are you proposing? Asked the chairman finally. Simple. Jackson sells his shares to me at fair market value, secured by a loan against my personal assets. He walks away a wealthy man with no legal repercussions. I resume leadership of the company and immediately restore the practices that made us successful. Everyone wins. This is extortion, Jackson protested. This is accountability, I corrected. Something you have avoided your entire life. After 2 hours of heated discussion with the company attorney confirming the seriousness of the allegations, the board approved my proposal. Jackson had no choice but to accept facing either a graceful exit with millions or potential prosecution with nothing. As we signed the transfer documents, he finally asked the question that had clearly been bothering him. How can you afford to buy me out? I froze all your assets. Unlike you, I built relationships with people who recognize genuine value. The financing was arranged within 48 hours of your coup. For the first time since we were children, I saw genuine respect flicker in his eyes, quickly replaced by resentment. You always thought you were better than me. No, Jackson. I just understood what matters. Dad tried to teach us both. The next morning, I walked back into Millwood as sole owner. The staff erupted in spontaneous applause when I entered the workshop floor. Marcus pulled me into a bear hug while even the newer employees cheered. The company had been saved once more. My first actions were reinstating the sustainability team, contacting all major clients personally, and implementing legal safeguards to prevent similar situations in the future. Within 6 months, we had recovered completely, even setting new profit records. I sometimes think about Jackson living off his windfall somewhere. Despite everything, I left the door open for him to return someday, not as an executive, but perhaps in sales, where his charisma could be an asset. Family remains family, though boundaries must be firm. The most valuable lesson from this ordeal was not about business, but about people. Success requires passion and vision, yes, but also protection from those who would exploit your creation. True loyalty, like I found in my team, is worth more than any business advantage. And sometimes standing firm against injustice is the greatest respect you can show for a legacy. I expanded our employee profit-sharing program and established a scholarship in Dad's name for students pursuing furniture craftsmanship. Every decision I make now considers not just growth, but sustainability, both environmental and human. We are not just building furniture, but building a community that honors my father's original vision while embracing a responsible future. Have you ever had to stand up against someone who tried to take credit for your work or steal your success? Share your experience in the comments below. I would love to hear how you handled it. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to support the channel. Remember to share with anyone who might need encouragement to fight for what they have built. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, integrity always wins in the end, even if the path there is painful.